Hello and welcome to the 65th episode of the PlayStation Country podcast. I'm Richie. I've got with me, as ever, Gareth. Say hello.
Hello.
And I think we might have missed a couple of weeks at the end of the last year. Is that right? Maybe a couple.
No, I mean we took Christmas off because that's fair enough, right?
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Jesus' birthday and that.
Yeah.
So I think that's fine. I don't think. Oh, we took Halloween off because that's Jesus' evil twin brother's birthday. Thanksgiving, obviously.
Yeah. Black Friday.
Yeah. Well, obviously busy buying shit.
And because I wasn't sure exactly about Black Friday, we took off every Friday from about August.
I think I saw September, but I could be wrong. But you know.
And then of course there was Black October.
Yeah.
So we took that off, and then thanks November. So we had to take that off. So it might have been one or two that we've missed. So sorry if you've been waiting with bated breath. We're back.
Got to keep them waiting for more. That's the thing, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the whole rule. We wrote the rule book on this shit. We keep them waiting for months.
Yeah.
And then they just all a bit more eager. That's how it works.
Yeah. And then you know what happens? We don't do any, talking. Nobody knows what to buy, and then suddenly everyone just buys Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, that was a mistake on our part.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry you had to play that. We promised to do better in 2019, and with that in mind, we'd like to review 2018 with our top 5 of the year. We're also going to cover some of the games we reviewed since we were last on. Not all of them, because that's probably about 30 fucking games each. But we're going to do a bit of that and a bit of VR stuff as well. So it's going to be a long podcast. So if you're doing this on your way to work, maybe scenic route, definitely. Just don't go.
Yeah, call in sick because for a couple of days maybe.
Yeah. But walk around a route that's sort of away from work so that your colleagues don't see you and think, hey, why's Mark walking around just aimlessly, just going round and round in a loop? Why is he doing that?
Why is he crying?
Yeah, it looks yeah, exactly. Anyway, we don't know what each other have picked as well, which is exciting. So
yeah, I'm not sure there's going to be any overlap. I don't think.
No, I don't think there will be either. Because you'll have picked nothing but visual novels and dating sims, and I'll have picked great fun games. But no, do you want to go first? Do you want to pick the first game? Do you want to go with your number 5? Let's work our way up.
All right. My number 5 and number 4 I wasn't sure about, but I'll go with this way. Number 5 I decided Ni no Kuni 2 Revenant Kingdom.
Fuck, I wasn't wrong, was I?
That's not a visual novel, it's called a JRPG. Thank you very much.
Whatever. So Ni no Kuni Nuno.
Yeah.
That was like a big deal when it came out on the PS3, but nobody owned a PS3. So firstly, do you have that experience with the series?
Yeah, I owned the first one. I never finished it.
Okay.
Like I never really got on with the combat. S? Yes, I am.
Shout out to Digitally Downloaded there. Probably the first of many.
First of the year, right? Like the combat was sort of half real time, half menu based. So you'd sort of be running around and controlling a menu at the same time to do your attacks and stuff. From what I remember, and I didn't get on with it that well. So I played it for a long while, but not enough to finish it.
Yeah.
And then when this one came out, looked good. We got offered a code and that, so it's like, okay, let's go for it. And they've made like changes to that. Now it is just a real-time battle system, hack and slash type thing.
Okay.
I
well, tell us. I guess we're going to have to be careful not to just drag this out to like 2 hours.
Yeah, and I have talked about it. So
just tell us what's good about it. What makes it a good game? And quickly, just for the people who don't know, which might be 99% of people, you said it's a JRPG. What sort? Is it like looking like a proper modern game, or is it some top-down Zelda bullshit? That kind of thing. Give us a flavour.
Proper looking game. Looks very nice, sort of cel-shaded visuals. Like the original had Studio Ghibli involved, Princess Mononoke or Spirited Away, you know, those films, they sort of involved that.
No, I don't know those
Fuck
films.
off, mate. Academy Award winning, I'm pretty sure.
What Academy?
Police Academy 9.
Yeah.
Nino Kuni 2. I like Jones, he makes the noises.
Yeah.
Um,
Wasn't that Hightower?
no, Hightower's the giant guy.
That makes sense. It has been a while, I admit.
It's a biannual occurrence for me. Anyway, it's cel shaded visuals, looks really nice. And yeah, it's like proper JRPG, not old school or anything like that. But you're sort of running around. You go to towns, and now you've got an overworld map, and yeah, it's old school in that respect. You encounter enemies in the maps, in the dungeons and stuff like that, and you go into an arena where, like I said, real-time combat. You're just sort of hacking and slashing. You've got your magics, and you've got your AI partners doing their own thing. You're just controlling one guy. But there's also, like, that part's fun, and you know, it moves at a decent pace, and it's, if anything, it's a bit too easy. It's not too difficult, so which is kind of good in that you don't have to grind at all, because so many JRPGs I've played recently, it's like, oh, you're coasting, oh, roadblock, and you've got to grind up for a bit. So that's nice. But then it's also got quite a few different systems where, on top of the battling and the normal sort of exploring and stuff, you play as a king who's trying to make a new kingdom because he's been he was almost killed from his last kingdom, so he's just sort of left and just goes like, I'm just going to start a new one. And so you're sort of building that up over time, and you've got to recruit residents to your new kingdom, and they'll sort of bring their own talents to the kingdom to help you build other things and stuff. And so you're building up this kingdom across the whole game. And it does go from like a tiny thing to a massive thing. So that part's fun. There's a sort of really bad RTS sort of thing, which I don't like. That sort of brings the thing down a bit. Might have been a bit higher in my list if that wasn't there, to be honest, because there's quite a lot of it and it's not very good. But it's just a very enjoyable game. Very charming. Like, the characters never really develop, so that again is a bit of a downer on it. But still, they're enjoyable enough, and there's so many different characters as well, because you're recruiting people to your kingdom, and there's like hundreds or whatever. So I just enjoyed it, and it's like one of those things where you've got like a side quest list or a quest list that's got, you can just tick it off. So that's quite something therapeutic about that sort of an open worldy type thing, where it's like, okay, I'll do this, and then I'll go here and I'll do that, and I'm ticking these off. That's fun. Okay, I'll carry on with the story now, and so on.
Is it not too busy worky though?
It's more.
I hate fucking busy work at the moment.
A lot of the stuff you'll just do naturally, but like if you do go out of your way, it is just like it'll generally point exactly where you need to go and stuff on the map. So it's just like, okay, I'll go do this quest. It's over here. I'll do that. And assuming you're sort of, if you're fighting something, assuming you're a decent level for it, you can just do it and move on. But yeah, the side quests are a bit sort of fetch questy or kill a number of this thing. But like I said, a lot of it is natural. It's only towards the end of the game where it's like, okay, I've got to go out of my way to do this stuff, or even post game, when you beat it, there's way more to do afterwards, which I still haven't finished all of that, but mainly because of the RTS crap. But yeah, so enjoyable romp for the 50 hours or whatever I played it to finish it.
Cool. All right, man. With it being fifth on your list, I figure the game that's fifth on your list sort of says a lot about what the year's been like. If you're scrabbling around, you're like, oh, fuck, okay, I'll kind of pick that because I sort of enjoyed it. Or, is it that kind of year, do you think, or do you think actually no, it's been a good one? And
I think it's been a solid year, but compared to 2017, I think there was quite a few bangers there.
Yeah.
And this year I was sort of looking, and it's like, oh well, I gave that a 9 out of 10, so that's definitely got to be on the list and stuff like that. There's only been a few games where I'm like, I definitely want that on the list, And just so for the record, actually, I won't say that yet. I'll say it after I've done the list, what I have played and what didn't make the list. I was going to say what would drop underneath it, but just keep the suspense going. I'll leave that until the end.
All right, cool. Right, so I guess my fifth one is going to be the thing is, right, I don't want to be a fucking massive hipster, You know, neither of us are going to pick Red Dead Redemption 2, for example, because neither of us played it, because neither of
No,
us wanted to play
we
it.
didn't like the first one, so
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And my missus has got it, and she's playing it, and I've sort of sat there and watched her play it, and at no point have I wanted to pick up the joypad at all, apart from to, like, you know, take it away from her, make her play fun-looking games. So I get that. Look, that would be a lot of people's number ones, and the fact that I'm picking this as my number 5 might make me sound like a bit of a hipster wanker, but look, if you've listened to this fucking thing, you know I play these sort of games a lot, and it's Tesla versus Lovecraft. Now, it's a top-down shooter by 10 Tons Limited, who I've got a bit of a soft spot for. They made one of my favourite games of the year before, which was Jidge, and that's again another top-down shooter. They seem to specialise in those, and this is just more of the same. It's got a really nice kind of neon-y, kind of crazy sort of lots going on, lots of explosions, lots of people, like lots of things dying, loads of bullets, loads of firepower being thrown at you and from you all the time. The Tesla versus Lovecraft thing is like, you know, it's basically science versus mysticism sort of setting, and you know that's fine. It's not going to win any awards for its plot, but it's just a game where I found myself like enjoying picking it up and playing it and going back to it, and just it's kind of one of those things where it's just straight all out arcadey action with a bit of production values to give it that kind of modern day flavour, but and also with like so much going on that you maybe couldn't have done this back in like the 80s or the 90s. You know, if you were playing something like Smash TV back then, it's kind of a bit of a staid kind of experience, whereas this is like just fucking craziness the whole time, but controlled. And you know, it's quite tactical as well. You've got a dodge move that you've got to use, gives you some invincibility, and you've got to kind of herd the enemies a bit, and you're kind of going for the right weapons at the right time. And yeah, just a very, very solid game. To answer my own question, I suppose, does that give an indication of it being like a weak year? I don't know. You know, it might be an indication that I've just not played as many games as I should have, because obviously we're reviewing games all the time and splitting those amongst 5 people, and you don't want to keep all the best games to yourself and pull like that bullshit. So, but I'd say, you know, I really like the game. I think it's pretty credible. In another year, sure, it might have made, you know, more like my top 10 than my top 5, but I think yes, it's I think it's a fairly solid choice. And there we have it.
Yeah, see,
Right.
I know about the game, but maybe I should ask questions. It's sort of level based, correct? Sort of short and sweet levels.
Yep, yep.
Yep. So sort of you can dip in and out of it. You're maybe not playing it for long stretches necessarily.
Yeah, definitely not at all. You can just do a level here and there. You can really fly through it. It's great.
And isn't it like you've got sort of simpler levels and then you've got unlocked harder difficulties or something, wasn't it? Something to do with that, I remember you saying?
Yeah, that's right. Which just changes things up a bit, makes it a bit tougher and stuff. So you can kind of fly through it and get, you know, and see everything the game's going to give you pretty easily. But then you know, you want to up the levels, the difficulty level, and get a bit of challenge going on as well. Not to say that the default level is particularly easy, but it's not the hardest game ever. But yeah, it just you make good progress for it. It's not trying to be fucking Dark Souls, and it's not like a Ratalaika, you know, that Finnish publisher who put out the easy platinums. It's, you know, it's just a good, solid, enjoyable game. And yeah, and that's that. So there you go. What have you got for me, man? What's your number 4?
Number 4 was a game I didn't
Tell me
actually
more.
review.
Tell me more
Go on.
with your number 4. Did we do that shit last year?
Probably.
There was some sort of
Yeah,
whack
there was.
rhyming thing.
Something like that. Number 4, I didn't actually review this. This is coming from Left Field,
Ooh.
wherever that is. And it's
Over on the left.
Monster Hunter World.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that you played that shit.
No, I played that a little while ago. It wasn't at launch, but I can't remember when I got it. But yeah, I
Okay.
dabbled with it for a little bit, and yeah, I enjoyed it. And for like a mainly multiplayer experience, I played it predominantly solo, and you know, it still kept me, you know, logging in every day or whatever you want to say, and
Yeah.
killing a few monsters. But yeah, so it's a bit of history. I never played any of the others before this. This is my first Monster Hunter game.
Okay.
They did sort of bill it as a more accessible game, I suppose. You know, the previous ones are sort of quite set in their ways, and their ways weren't necessarily the best. You sort of get used to them rather than them being good. And so yeah, they sort of fixed a lot of that stuff, and so I think they got quite a few new fans, and now I guess I'm one of them.
Okay.
And you've got like a hub world, and you've got stuff you can do there, but really you're loading into instances, I guess you'd call it, where there are monsters just roaming around.
Yeah.
And you'll have a mission to kill or capture or whatever a specific monster. So there'll be other monsters going around their business as well. But and early on it's like, oh, this little thing, and then obviously you build up to sort of your giant T-Rex type thing or flying creature thing. And yeah, you're just sort of running in, and you've obviously got lots of different weapons to choose from. I think mine was something blade. It was basically just a long sword, and I didn't have any defense, but I had a dodge roll type thing, and I was all about the offense. And
so can you change up your play style, your loadout, your tactical way of playing? Can you
not
be a
mid-level,
guy?
but yeah, any time you can just pick a new weapon.
Okay.
But then obviously as you progress, you're getting better weapons by using the materials you get from defeating the monsters. So you're using the hide of whatever monster you just killed to make new armor, or the bones to make better weapons. And obviously as you go through the levels, you'll fight tougher monsters, which will give you better materials, which will get you better weapons. And so you can make a weapon of any type. So you can just use the weapon you've got now to get the equipment you need to get the materials to make a weapon of a different type, whether it's sword and shield or the gun or bow or whatever it is you're going for. But yeah, you're not locked in at any point, which is pretty cool if you want to experiment and stuff. It's just willing to put in the time to get those materials and stuff. But you could always go back to an earlier level, I suppose, if you wanted to just faff about with the new weapon.
I mean, I've only played one Monster Hunter type of game, and it was that thing, and I can't think what it's called. Yeah. So that was like, running around. There's a big monster. You have to go there. You play in co-op if you want. Hit a big thing for ages until it dies, and then go back to the hub world sort of thing. Is it that type of game? Because I wouldn't necessarily want to go back to that ever again.
It is, and it isn't. It is in that you sort of going around and you got to beat on this big thing, but there's a bit more AI to it, I suppose. Like in that, it was basically like, right, it's just a sponge of a boss, basically, wasn't it? You just keep hitting it into Keydon, and the parts might fall off, and you'd sort of suck them up or whatever it was you did, but then they'd grow them back anyway, so who cares?
Yeah.
But you just sort of keep beating on them. Whereas in this one, like, they'll run away, and because you've hurt them too much, or another enemy might come in and they'll just start either fighting you or fighting the guy you're fighting or whatever. And so it's a little bit more natural in that respect, and so you're sort of adjusting your tactics on the fly or whatever. You've also got a bit more, like you can bring in an explosive barrel, say, with you into level, and so if you sort of sneak up on the enemy, you could just sort of put an explosive barrel next to them, set it off, and then you've got yourself an advantage instantly in the battle, if you just sort of sneakily get up on them and stuff like that. So there's more to it than Takeden, I think. Like Takeden got quite boring just because it was, right, I'm bashing out these combos, and I might dodge every now and then or block or whatever it was in that. Whereas in this, you're attacking, and the monster's trying to fight back, obviously, but at the same time, it might try and escape, and then it's up to you. You could chase it down. You've got to sharpen up your blade mid battle because it dulls and things like that. So it's like it's more tactical and more natural, and it looks way better as well. It's a more modern version of that, and that the graphics look good and the monsters look good as they're running around and stuff. So yeah, it's far more enjoyable than Takeden 1, at least. I never played Takeden 2, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't know if you would be into it, but then, like I said, it is multiplayer focused, so yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
The problem with Takeden was as well, it started off and you'd have proper levels with little things to kill, and then you'd find the boss and kill that. But
Yeah.
after a while, it was just every level from a certain point on was just go in there. There's one boss, go and kill that, and that
Yeah.
was it. And there was so it wasn't super exciting, but fair enough. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Sounds like it. I mean,
did.
it did look like it was good, and a lot of people were really into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool. Sounds good. All right, man. Well, with
Oh, who's that at the door? Is it your number 4?
oh, yes, and my number 4. Oh man, I had a look whilst you were talking. I had a quick look to see what I've played this year because I just thought, am I sure about this one? I'm going to put this one in because of the joy it brought me and
Right.
you.
And me.
Jackbox Party Pack
Oh, okay.
5.
Yeah.
Now, the Jackbox games are really good if you've got, people to play them with. And whenever we've had like a meet-up, these games have always been like the star of the show. You've got a few of your mates round. It's better than anything else. Back in the day, the party game was Rock Band. And there's been other great ones along the way, but Jackbox is like everyone just needs to get out their phones and you answer questions, you type answers, you draw things all on your phone. It goes into the game as your response, and it's just great. And there's obviously been a few of them, and normally we tend to get on best with the one that the modes where you're drawing something, and because obviously it can be super offensive.
Yeah.
But this one brought in Robot Rap Battle. In fact, it's not called that. It's just that's like the more sensible name. It's got some stupid name, and in that you're kind of given sentences, like pre-made sentences, and then you sort of have to pick a word. It would say pick a verb or a doing word or something bad or whatever, and then you'll do the whole of the next line, and then it will give you that again. So eventually, basically, you're making 4 lines. If you make them rhyme and everything like that, your robot will rap them essentially and make it sound a bit like a rap. The timing's all off and it's all very silly, but it's also like tremendous fun, and you can like sort of you know who you're going up against, so you can start cussing them up, directly, or you can just try and be funny with your with your rhyming and shit like that. There's a couple of there's actually 5 modes in there as well, and a couple of them were pretty good. I can't even remember what they were. There
was one where you had to invent something.
Oh, that's
a
it, yeah.
problem.
Somebody comes up with a problem and you have to draw a product that would fix it. Because you had a hat that dispensed limes, didn't you?
Yes, for scurvy or something.
Yeah. So
yeah, but that's always been the case with the Jackbox, where there's 5 games, but really there's only 1 or 2 that you're going to keep going back to. Like I can't even remember what the other 3 were, or even if there were 3.
Oh, there was one
like
where
Split
you're
the Room. Was that one of them? We had to.
Yes.
They gave you a situation, and you had to come up with a situation which was equally not better or worse. It had to be about the same level, so that people would vote which one was better, and you'd want to split the room. You didn't want everyone to vote for yours.
Yeah.
But you didn't want no one as well. So it's like there was that one. That was okay.
There was a sort of arcade game where you had to control a
yes.
thing popping balloons or something,
yes. But we were playing it
shit.
over Twitch, and that did not work.
No.
So there
yeah.
might be another one as well, but I don't remember. But yeah, like the rap battle was the king, as the T-shirt one was before that.
Yeah.
And so on. There's always there must have been a drawing one in this, unless it was just the invention one. But yeah, you're right. It's like it's always a safe bet when you're with like-minded people. Let's say, like I wouldn't say for you to bring it out with your parent, with your mum or your sister.
Yeah,
or
don't play it
like,
at Christmas.
No,
you know what I mean?
Because it's like you either have to adjust your own thought process, or it's like, well, now I'm playing with a 10-year-old or whatever, so it's like better make a nice Mickey Mouse reference or whatever. It's like no, you want to play with
Mickey
adults.
Mouse. Fuck off, Grandad. Kids don't know what fucking
exists.
Mickey
Kingdom
Mouse
Hearts
is.
out this year. Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, that's for fucking 35-year-olds.
Well, I'm almost there.
It ain't for kids. Fucking Mickey Mouse, what the fuck? But yeah, Jackbox is good though. Yeah, you're right. Get the right people around, and it's basically ridiculous and super offensive until you start playing it for whimsy. But
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed the games, and this is a good one. Yeah, they do need to just make a compilation of best of, where they just take the best events,
Yeah.
you know. But for now, I really liked it. You know, it's high praise indeed for it to be like fourth best game of the year. But you know, fuck it, it's certainly one of the most fun games I've had. But you know, that's enough about me. Tell me about your number 3.
Number 3 is Dead Cells, which
Oh, good shout.
yeah, it was a because I gave this a 9, and if you look at my list of games I reviewed, I've only given 2 9s this year, so someone snuck in a number 2 that didn't get a 9. But yeah, Dead Cells, it's a roguelike, which isn't necessarily my thing generally. There's only
Yeah.
been a couple really that I ever got on with. Um, but it just plays so well. It's like you're running through a procedurally generated level. It'll
It's
have
2D, side on,
2D,
old school looking.
and you've got your jump, you've got your roll, and you've got your attack. But it just feels incredible to control. If you mess up, it's your fault. And what you're attacking with depends on what you find in the level. So it might be a sword, it might be a dagger, which is a quicker version of a sword but short range, or it might be a broadsword type thing, which is slower but bigger. Might be a crossbow or a bow and arrow, or it might be magic. You're throwing fire around and stuff.
Yeah.
And then as you play it, you earn cells, assuming you're doing well enough. You know, if you're finishing a level, you'll get to a sort of hub area, and you can spend those cells, and you can unlock blueprints, which will basically give you more options in future runs. So there'll be weapons which will be like, oh, it's a kick, and if you kick someone against a wall, then they take more damage. Or it'll be a sword, like a dagger, and it'll be like if you get someone in the back, you get critical hits and things like that. So you get more options, or it'll be an ice bow, things like that. And then on top of that, you've got perks which you unlock as well, and those will you can sort of pick one at the end of each level, every 2 levels. I don't recall, but and those are basically either just give you a boost in health or something, or it will make your attack stronger, or some of the equipment you use. So you might have a bear trap or a turret. You'll allow you to use those more frequently, or make them more powerful, and you can just sort of build your own setup as you go. And obviously there's a bit of randomness as to what weapons drop and that, but the majority of them do have their uses. There are a few sort of duds, I think, but you sort of want to avoid those. But yeah, it's just a great feeling game, and that's the thing. It's like it's so good to play through, and the more you play it, the better you get at it, and the more good it feels. You're sort of taking different approaches. Like initially, you're like killing everything, and they'll drop money and cells and that. But then it's like, okay, there's doors which shut after a certain amount of time on some subsequent levels.
Those
so
are
if you
always a bit
speed
rough.
run,
Yeah, I find those a bit rough because you don't know they're there. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like you
Well,
get to it
obviously
and it's
you
like,
do.
well, fuck.
Once you played it enough, you do. It's always
Okay.
pretty much at the beginning of a level, and so it's like you end up, okay, I won't kill the enemies, I'll run to this door, and then you're basically getting the equivalent and more of what you would have got for killing enemies in this doorway. And and then obviously there's the people call it the Metroidvania element when I've read reviews and stuff, which I think that's sort of misselling it a bit. But you can unlock permanent abilities which will allow you to take different routes as you play through the game. And so it's not Metroidvania in that you're going back to places, but you do gives yourself more options by being able to wall run or create vines,
climb up those those vine things.
And just sort of, and then obviously the more you explore, the more of those you find, and so on, and you get more blueprints which will unlock more weapons. And it's also really difficult, so it's like very rewarding when you do actually get through a part that you couldn't get through, and eventually obviously finish it. And then once you do finish it, you unlock a harder mode if you want to take it, and then you finish that and you get a harder mode above that, and then I think there's a harder mode above that, and obviously the higher you go, the more cells you earn as you play through it, but it gets harder. So it's quite rewarding and stuff, and they've been patching it from release, so they're sort of balancing things and introducing new things. Yeah, it's just the best thing about it is just how good it is to control. Like,
it does feel really slick. I mean,
yeah,
I've been playing it on the Switch, and yeah, it's really good. It's really good. So that's a really good shout. I mean, if I played it on PS4, I probably would have picked it myself. But yeah, I didn't. And that's because it's 25 quid or some shit. Although it's had a couple of sales, hasn't
yeah,
it? So
probably has.
yeah, so it's one of those, because it's very difficult playing stuff on the Switch and sticking with it because you haven't got trophies to kind of give you
Yeah.
that extra impetus. So I played it for quite a bit, but then you move on to other things, don't you? So, but it's one game that I can see myself playing on the PS4 in the future. And yeah, it's as you describe. It feels really slick. The combat's really good. If you fuck up, it's generally because you got a bit overconfident and you've forgotten to use your turrets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If anything, I don't know. You might agree with this or not, but it kind of gives me a little bit of a Risk of Rain kind of feel as well. So, not in terms of the combat, but just in terms of like the reward and the progression and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And that's always good. I think if you're going to do a roguelike game, get the progression right. If you're going to do an RPG, especially like an action RPG, like a Diablo type thing, I want the loot to keep flowing, keep getting better. Otherwise, what's the fucking point? That's what's wrong with games like Borderlands, where you might be playing like a third of the game with the sniper rifle that the same sniper rifle that you unlocked like ages ago, because you just haven't found anything better. So yeah, it's a good choice, man.
Thank you very much.
Mm.
Fiddle dee dee. What's your number 3?
Right, okay. My number 3 is a game from 2018 for sure, but also a game from 2008. It's Burnout Paradise Remastered.
Okay.
Now, I actually quite liked the last Need for Speed, but I also know someone who worked on it, and they sort of said, yeah, pretty much the team behind it over at EA weren't super into it because it doesn't have that Need for Speed feel. It's not a game where it's about racing at night against people who are inexplicably rich enough to afford a very nice car, and yet complete idiots because they like to drive very fast cars very dangerously around like public roads, and clearly are unemployable. But anyway, that one I thought was the new one. Like, I thought was really good, like really enjoyable. But you don't want Need for Speed. You want fucking Burnout to come back. And Burnout Paradise was a great game on the Xbox 360. It was the first open world racer that they did, and I was kind of against that at first. I didn't really. I like to just have point A to point B and let me race. I don't be figuring out shortcuts and routes like that unless it's a game with like clever shortcuts like a Hydro Thunder or Mario Kart or some shit.
Yeah.
But this is, just you driving around the city, doing various events, races, time trials, races where you're getting kind of chased by armoured cars trying to destroy you, stunt things, I mean, nearly everyone's played Burnout Paradise. And, it came back, I managed to get a code for it, and I was looking forward to playing it. And actually, you know what, it's kind of gotten a little bit better with age, not just in terms of, the game itself, and how the mechanics stand up, but also how the genre is these days. Like, racing games are a little bit generic, a little bit joyless, a little bit, hi, my name's Chad and I'm driving against the corporation so that I can raise money to take them down because fucking hell, whatever. But it turns out the corporation are running their own street racing events. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, EA?
Yeah, and the final boss is like the CEO of the company. Is like, I'm actually a badass racer as well.
Yeah, exactly. Just absolute fucking horseshit stories. Whereas Burnout is like, look, just get out on the road and drive around. And actually, the other great thing about it is that it doesn't have a very massive world. At the time, you felt like, oh, this is a nice big open city. But actually, it's not that big, and you can learn where you are. You can actually kind of drive around by memory a bit. In fact, I sort of was relearning sort of areas very quickly from playing it before and being like, oh yeah, if I go down there, that's a good route for doing stunts. And if I go there, there's this and that going on. So that was really cool. The gameplay super holds up. It's really lovely and fast, which is what you want from a racing game. It's like completely chaotic, and it looks great. The music's kind of what it always was, which is
Is it exactly the same?
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Right.
Even down to like the DLC's all in there as
I
well,
meant
which
the
is
music
brilliant.
specifically.
Oh right, I
Obviously
assume it's
get
all the same.
licensing issues, but
Yeah, you usually do. I mean, it opens up with Paradise City, and
Yeah.
then it's a load of indie rock.
I literally just
bullshit.
remember that and Avril Lavigne. That's literally all I remember.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure the track list is pretty much the same, insofar as it's super ignorable. But but at least it's ignorable music from 10 years ago, as opposed to the sort of shit you get when you play a FIFA game now. And it's like, who the fuck are these people? This Jules Holland at night dog shit bands where you're like, yes, and now we've got the shelves. Fuck off. It's none of that. And, it's got all the DLC in there, which, Activision could learn a fucking thing about. They don't try and sell you anything extra. There's no microtransactions. It's just, here's the game, here's all the DLC. It's nice and cheap. It keeps dropping down to about a tenner in the sales. And also, and I love this about it, they actually kind of toned down the trophy list. Now, I maxed it on the 360, everything, all the DLC, all the online shit. And I think they realised, look, you're not going to get as many people playing it online anymore. So they've kind of really sort of calmed that down. Because I think you had to do a thing where you had to make rivals of people, like crash into them, and like you had to like crash into like 50 people or some shit. There's none of that now.
And to add the vision camera. And
Yeah.
Take a picture of you if you got hit, or the other way around. I can't remember. Or maybe both.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like just awful, and all that's gone. And the only sort of dickhead trophies now were, there was one where you had to be in a party of 8 people and go down to the baseball ground and just be in there at the same time, which is, it's like herding fucking cats.
Yeah, it's basically you need everyone to be on board.
Yeah, and you think that's bad. There's another one where you've got to be on a motorbike and you've got to ride uninterrupted at full speed for like, I think that's what the condition is. You either have to be at full speed or you just go at full speed because you want to get it done. You have to do a certain amount of distance, and you have to go for, it takes about 10 minutes. It might be like, ride for like 10 miles with 8 people in the room.
Okay.
And firstly, online, back when the game launched, you couldn't really do any criteria for what type of lobby, bikes or cars or this or that. There was nothing. You could select the option, but it would take you into a car lobby, unless you were very lucky and it took you into a bike one. Then in the bike one, you had to have 8 people in there. 8 people had to stay in there whilst you were trying to ride around like the motorway on there, the for 10 minutes, going at full pelt, hoping that you don't get kicked because you're not taking part in races, okay? Which happened often. And then you got to hope that nobody drops out during that time that you're doing that, which happens really often. And it's just like, it's fucking agonizing. I spent ages trying to do it. The Rook, who's one of the marks who listens to the podcast, he came into a room with me. He got it and I didn't, and we were there for the same amount of time, shit like that, because I don't know what happened, and it was a fucking nightmare, but I got there in the end. But everything else was super easy to do, and not super easy, but just super enjoyable, really. And it was a great game, great to be back on it, and yeah, just what you want from a remaster. Give me everything, running fast, super slick on the PS4 Pro, no problems with that. I don't know about you, but what's your number 2?
Well, this is the one that didn't get a 9, but it snuck in above Dead Cells, just because sort of thinking of my game of the year, it was like, this sort of just kept popping into my head, and it was Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Oh gosh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit of a surprise as well, because it's like, it is a really good game, it's incredibly huge.
Yeah.
But it's another fun game. Like in the review, I compared it to Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain. I think that's its full title, isn't it? Because it was just like, yes, you're sort of doing the same thing over and over again. In Assassin's Creed case, you're fighting or assassinating or climbing stuff or whatever. But it's just a lot of fun to do that stuff, so you don't mind so much that it is repetitive or that you are doing the same stuff over and over again.
Where's it set?
This one is ancient Greece.
Okay, because that's one of the things that bothers me about the Assassin's Creed games. Now, obviously, we don't have to describe what Assassin's Creed is to people because everyone's played at least one of them. But the early ones, you're sort of in towns and stuff like that, and then suddenly it's like there was a fucking one with boats and stuff, and then like I watched my missus playing the previous one, Origins.
Yeah.
It's like you're in the middle of fucking Egypt. Like, yeah, there's some pyramids and then there's fuck all to climb on, and so the parkour aspects seem to be less important. And I guess ancient Greece might be a bit similar, that there's not going to be like bustling cities and stuff like that.
I mean, being a massive open world as opposed to, I mean, the old ones were sort of open world as well, but they were far smaller in scale. It's like you sort of, it's more, if you imagine like a sort of Skyrim or Oblivion type thing where you've got a small town, but then there's a lot of open space around that. And here, like, the open space is cliffs and stuff, so you're still climbing in that. But yeah, it's not so much the intricate in town climbing. There's obviously buildings to climb, and different towns are bigger and they have bigger buildings or whatever. And being ancient Greece, you know, some have got like beautiful pillars or, you know, statues and things like that that you can climb. But like the climbing, I don't know, I like it a bit more in that the climbing isn't the focal point. You know, it's like it's just something you can do, and it's better than it used to be in the old games. Because I remember I only played a couple of them, but you'd sort of be running along the rooftop and you'd be holding L or whatever the magic button was that made you do the stuff, and you just sort of jump to your death, or, you know, jump off the building you were trying to skillfully parkour across. Whereas here it's sort of, it's a bit more smart about that stuff. You're generally doing what you want to do. But yeah, like, it's just a means to get around now. It's like, okay, my target's up there. I can take out a few guys just to clear the route, or I could take out everyone if I want, or I could just alert everyone and just get into a big fight. Or maybe I can sort of climb up this building in a sort of sneaky manner and get in there and get out, possibly, without being noticed and things like that. So it's sort of, whereas before it was all about assassination and all about climbing and stuff, because that was how you got about. In this, it's more of a tool that you can use to play the game how you want. You know, it's like, so yeah, your goal is to kill this guy. You don't have to assassinate him in the sort of stealthy way. You can just kill him if you want. You can use bow and arrow, or you can just run up and stab him, or smash him with a hammer, or whatever it is you're using. So like, that sort of player choice, if you want to call it that, is fun. And obviously it's got a loot based thing as well, so you're basically, as you said, you're constantly getting loot. So it's like, okay, that's a new piece of armour. Oh, yep, numbers are higher, I'll pop that on. And it affects how your character looks as well, so they're constantly changing. You've got your weapons, there's quite a few different weapon types, but they all sort of handle the same, if you know what I mean. They're slower or faster or weaker or stronger and stuff, but it's the same sort of tap out the combo with using the shoulder buttons, a bit like a Dark Souls control scheme, but it's obviously way more lenient than a Dark Souls. And you've got a skill tree, so you're unlocking more options as you go. Like, you can use your power meter to set your weapons on fire, so you're setting fire to people as you're beating them, or you can, you know, later on you can turn invisible and things like that, so you become quite powerful. And obviously a lot of people have been saying about, oh well, it's just bloated, or the grind is real, or whatever, you know. It's like, but I never really found that, you know. It's like, sure, if you wanted to just mainline the story, you know, go from story point to story point, then maybe you would be under leveled, because you have got a level and missions have a level requirement, or not necessarily requirement, but if the guy's higher level than you, then each hit is going to do a lot of damage to you. But if you just do like some of the side quests around the towns you're in or whatever, then you are going to just level up naturally. And I never had any issues as far as, like, that's not grinding. Doing side missions isn't grinding. Grinding is doing the same thing over and over again. And so I sort of found people saying that you had to grind was a bit, you know, misleading and stuff, because it's not, you know, if I'm doing a side quest which I've never done before, that's doing side content. That's not grinding. Um, but then obviously they did sell some microtransactions, which I never bothered with. Again, never had a problem with it. Where it's like, oh, you can get an XPW, and so people are like, see, so you can get twice as much experience, and it's like, well, for me personally, the speed at which I got experience was never a problem. Like, I was leveling up regularly. I was never stuck for things to do. You know, it's like there's so much stuff to do in that game. It's like if I can't do that mission, then there's a fuck ton of others you could do. You know, and that includes you can have a boat and you're sort of doing boat stuff as well. You know.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, so there's loads to do.
So the only thing I was going to say there is so Assassin's Creed lost me along the way, and I know exactly why. Firstly, the first game you actually had to plan out your assassinations. It had a little bit, just a tiny bit of that Hitman thing.
Yeah,
where it was like this guy has these two guards, and you have to learn their patterns, and you have to do this and that. And it wasn't super sophisticated, but they got rid of all of that in Assassin's Creed 2. So is it now just find the guy and kill him, whatever? Is there any kind of assassination kind of cleverness to it?
Not really. I mean, I guess you can make as much as you want. Like, I have completely stealthed an area or a hideout, or whatever you want to call it. You know, I've taken out all the guards around the outside and got in there and done what I needed to do and got out without an alarm going off. But at the same time, if the alarm does go off, you don't get desynced like you did in the original whatever. It's not like, oh, you mucked that up. In this, it's like, okay, well, shit's got real, you know, you've got to deal with it or run away or whatever you're going to do.
Do they even have the future shit anymore?
Yes, but not to that extent. You know, it's like,
fair enough.
It is there because I guess that's part of Assassin's Creed, but it's like not it's not like the end of every chapter or whatever it was in the original. You know.
The only other thing I was going to say was, do you have all that bullshit where you've got like mercenaries that you hire out and send on missions, and you've got a little franchise going on?
No, you can.
Good, because that was dog shit.
No,
fuck that shit.
Like I said, you got your boat and you can
bullshit.
crew up your boat, but then that's just like you'll do a side quest, and then one of the options will be like, "Hey, join me on my boat" or whatever, and so you can sort of do that, and you can upgrade your boat and stuff like that. But there's no, you don't have an army that you're sending out to do stuff for you, which I wouldn't necessarily mind, but that's not in there.
Well, that's the thing though, because it was all like it suddenly became like, you know, earn money and sell shit and do this and whatever, and it's like the first game you just had your sword and that was it. That's all you fucking needed. I think you had your little dagger, of course, and you know, that replaced your finger, and that was about it. There wasn't. I don't know. It's very Ubisoft to start adding all the other stuff, but you know, you like it. My missus liked it a lot as well. She was saying it was good, and I think Steve, who used to write for us, he liked it. So
yeah, I think he's playing it at the minute, and so he'll be playing it for a while longer yet. But it's like I said, I only gave it an 8. I say only, you know, 8's a great score, but obviously I gave Dead Cells a 9. But like when I was thinking, oh, what is my game of the year? This just kept popping into my head. Like I enjoyed this one a lot, and I guess it was still relatively recent as well. It's only a few months ago, but yeah, you know, I think it's a worthy game to be up there.
Fair enough. Sounds good.
Oh, what's this on my shoe? Oh, also, what was your number 2?
Right. Thanks for asking.
That's all right. I was just distracted by my shoe there. But
my number 2 was Earth Defense Force 5.
Oh, okay. I thought that might be a bit higher.
Yeah.
Only one higher, obviously. But
yeah. It's definitely a great game. So Earth Defense Force, if you've not played it, it's basically fucking straight up insanity. You're in a city. Just imagine this. You're in a city. Your guns take down buildings, or at least your rockets, your explosives do, like quite easily. And imagine the carnage of that. Now imagine that there's giant ants, like fucking giant ants, running around that are all trying to kill you. And imagine there's like not just dozens of them, like but lots of dozens of them, like 60 of them. And then imagine there's also giant wasps and these giant soldiers that are like these sort of reptile things, and then there's robot things, and there's just absolute, complete, unbridled chaos. And that's the best thing about EDF, is just the madness of it. Like, if you were a kid playing arcade games back in the 80s, right, say, or or the SNES in the 90s or whatever, what do you want? You just want fucking fun and action and spectacle, right? You want things that look good and things that are fun to do. I don't know how we got into this fucking bullshit where it's like, oh, I'm going to spend the next 3 hours like hunting and skinning foxes, like some sort of cunt. It's like, no, I'm going to spend the next 3 hours fucking running around, diving out the way of like this giant spider's webs that it's flinging at me, trying to kill that, trying to do this and that, resurrect people, online, earning new weapons, like just tons of new weapons. And the game just keeps kind of adding more and more and more. Like, it starts off and it's like, well, actually the first level is kind of just a bit more of a tutorial and it's sort of set inside, and then the second level's like suddenly you're out in this military base and all these things are coming towards you and it's just chaos. And then the next level it's like you've got all these allied robot things, mech suit things, shooting loads of bullets at this oncoming horde, and it just keeps upping the ante from there, just constantly. So it's great. The reason why it's not number one, and the reason why it's not 10 out of 10, it's just that, the EDF games have been known to be a bit of a grind, and they get worse and worse each time, I think. And with this, it's like, although there's lots going on, and there's definitely like highlights and set pieces and great moments and great levels, but there's a lot of levels that are just kind of filler, that you're doing stuff that you've already done before. It's like, here's a level where you're underground in a cave and there's ants and things coming at you and wasps, and it's like, great, but then when you've done that like 4 or 5 times, and bear in mind you did it a load of times in the previous game, and the caves are in the game before that as well, it's like suddenly it's like, okay, I'm getting a little bit jaded by all this. But then you get a few levels down the road and suddenly it throws some new shit at you and you go like, oh my god, that's amazing, and so that's great. Playing it online is absolutely fantastic. But yeah, the only thing, like I say, it lets you down, just a bit of a grind, a bit of familiarity at this point, to be honest. It's not like, new part of the story or anything. It's basically like an alternate timeline where you're doing all the shit you've done before. But, and also the other thing is if you want to max these things out, it's like you're looking at like 6 months of playing these things, and obviously I just haven't got time to do that. I did delay the review quite a bit to make sure that I got all the way through it, played every level, and then played a bunch of them on harder difficulties and tried every class out. And to be honest, even then, you're never really qualified to review an EDF game until you have put in like hundreds and hundreds of hours. Unlike certain sites who clearly just played, a few levels here and there, went online, saw the last level because someone else had unlocked it, and then threw out a quick review, But I mean, that's not the sort of review that I'd want to read. But if you want to read it, you could always download that digitally. No, so there you go. It's a really good game. It's a lot of fun in co-op, and I played it round a friend's house in local co-op, and we just like we're having just a ball with it. It's like superb, and it's also got that silliness. It's a complete B movie. It's got ridiculous dialogue, and it just doesn't give a fuck, and it runs great on PS4 Pro, which is quite new for the series, because normally they struggle. And it definitely has its moments where it struggles, but most of the time it's pretty slick. So yeah, great game.
See, it's like they do seem fun, and I think I've got 4.1, but I've never played it yet. And it is kind of like you're going to have to invest a lot of time into this. It's like, it's not something where it's like, oh, that was fun, I'll just leave that now. It's like, no, if you want to get to the really good stuff, You got to play it for a while because you'll get the super cool weapons or the super cool levels or whatever.
I think the main thing is that when you're playing it on normal, it's just a good, reasonably challenging, like third-person shooter. Think of it that way.
Mm.
When you play it on hard, it becomes, a little bit more challenging, a little bit more interesting. You play it on hardest, it suddenly becomes like a very sort of a game where you've got to use a bit of brain power to survive. And then you play it on Inferno, which is harder than hardest for whatever reason. You at that point you've got to be tactical, you've got to come up with strategies, and that's where I always thrived. You don't have to be a brilliant sort of shooter in that respect. You just have to be kind of smart and go, okay, well look, if we approach from this side and do this, this and this, we're not going to get overwhelmed with giant wasps because they won't know we're there yet and stuff like that. But I don't think there's quite as much scope for that in this one. And yeah, it's just one of those things. Also, like your progression, because if you want to max it out, you got to put in a lot of hours. But it's like your progression in single player doesn't mix with your progression online, so you kind of have to do one or the other. If you're wasting time in one mode, you're not really helping yourself, apart from you're gaining armor, like you're farming armor and some weapons, but you're not kind of gaining additional progress, and that's a real shame, because it's like, if I could just mix and match, take away some of the chore, that'd be good. But it's still fucking one of a kind, man. This series, it's like no one else makes games that are as mad or as chaotic and probably not as fun. So it is what it is. But speaking of fun, what's your number one?
I'm not sure you'd think it was fun, but it was the other game that I gave 9 out of 10 to was Divinity Original Sin 2 Definitive Edition, which
Right,
I think
okay.
we spoke about it on the last podcast, so I don't want to dwell on it too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just again a massive game similar to Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but just so polished. Like, it came out last year as a non-definitive edition on the PC,
Yeah.
and then obviously they've updated it, including the PC version, and then they've simultaneously released it on the consoles as well. So it's just been polished to like perfection basically, and it works really well with the controller. It's a computer RPG, as they call it, CRPG, which just basically means it's like a hardcore old school RPG.
Right.
You got your character, each you can pick from, I think it's 6 at the beginning, or you can make your own, but they basically have 6 unique characters, each with their own backstory. And then you're sort of trying to they're on a prison ship when they start, because they are sorcerers, source as in SOURCE, and they're basically being blamed for demons infecting the world. Like, their magic skill is sort of attractive to the demons or something, so they come and invade our world. So they've been imprisoned, they've got these magic dampening collars on, and that's the start of your adventure. But you've obviously, because you've got a backstory, which is kind of unusual to be honest in these sort of games, you've actually got your own story to complete, as well as this other story about getting free and going on your destiny quest, or whatever you want to call it. It's like, so everyone's got their own little thing going on, and then as you progress, the players that you didn't choose to play with, you can recruit them to your gang, so you can have a maximum of 4 players going around with you, and everyone's got their own character class, which you can choose for them. And so it's like there's a lot of different player choice as far as your builds and stuff like that goes, and you can screw yourself over if you do a bad build and stuff like that. And yeah, you get into the combat, turn-based. You've got skills that you unlock as you level up and stuff. Yeah, it's very tactical. You can use the environment to your advantage. Like, if there's an oil slick, then that will slow people down as they walk through it. You can also set fire to it, which will obviously make it a fireball, which will damage enemies inside it and stuff like that. But then also using your skills cleverly in that, using high ground if you're an archer and things like that. Very tactical. You can sort of, if you're not very tactical, then you're going to struggle no matter what level you are, you know what I mean? Whereas if you are quite clever about things, if you funnel enemies and separate them out and stuff like that, then you'll make things easier for you, and you can overcome like harder challenges that you maybe shouldn't be able to. And yeah, it's just like, they are separate chapters, but each area that you're in. It's quite large, lots of side quests and stuff like that. Like I said, it's a big game, but there's plenty to do within those areas, and there's also optional stuff like you can just start a fight with anyone if you want that sort of choice. And yeah, it's just a really well-made, enjoyable game. Like I said, it's like last year there was obviously quite a few bangers, and whereas this year, not last year, the year before last year,
2017.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's quite a few bangers. Whereas this year's maybe solid games, but not so many bangers. But this was like when I played it way earlier in the year, it was really good, and like I had to remind myself of it at this point now. But yeah, at the time it was like, yeah, this is a really good game. And
So
if you're
my
into
wife's
that,
playing it.
she is. What, on
Yeah,
the
she's playing it on the
PlayStation?
PC.
Okay.
No, on the PC.
Yeah.
And it looks basically like a Diablo sort of game. So is it?
No.
Or am I?
No,
Or is she
no.
playing a different one? She's playing a Divinity anyway.
Oh, okay, it might be a different one then, because Divinity is quite a long-running series, but this one is turn-based and stuff, and like the
Oh no, that's right. Yeah, no, she is playing that one. It looks. It's got the viewpoint of a Diablo, but
Yeah.
it is turn-based.
yeah,
Yeah.
sort of top-down and that, and like loot isn't so much of a thing. Obviously, you do get
Yeah.
better equipment than that, but it's not in a Diablo sense. It's like. But
Is it a co-op game, or can it be
you
a co-op
can
game?
play it co-op, like literally someone else can take control of characters, which is sort of awesome but also sort of mental in that it's like this is like hundreds of hours long, and it's like if you're the type of person who does get together for role-playing games or whatever, then I think you could probably do this over the computer. It's like, right, you don't come around my house, we'll play this online, that would
Yeah.
work. But if you're like a normal person, quotation marks, then that's a big ask. It's like having someone else of that frame of mind, as well as just being like, right, we've got 2 hours to play this thing together, and also just for me personally, giving up the control of a character to someone else. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I like that. It's like you could screw something up here for do something I don't want, which obviously, I mean, I guess if you've played through it once or twice before and you're really into the game, then it's like that's another dimension. You get like someone coming in and screwing around in your game, and it's like, okay, so I've got to deal with this now. Someone who might mess things up for me at any moment. But yeah, it is co-op. I think you can have up to 4 people co-op if you want, which just sounds crazy. Is that how your wife's doing it or not?
She's playing it with a couple of people online. Yeah.
Consistently, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, it sounds kind of cool, but also mental.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. I mean, I do like turn-based games. Like if if it was open like multi-format, this list, Into the Breach would have made it, which is turn-based and wonderful. So yeah, I like the sound of that a little bit. Anything turn-based is pretty good. But yeah, no, it sounds all right. So that's your number one, eh?
Yes, it is.
Pretty exciting.
I don't think a single game on my list has a gun. How about your number one?
Yes, it has several actually.
Okay.
So, it's a weird one this because I was looking at my list of games that had come out this year, and there's a fucking massive amount of them. There's a lot of shit in there.
Yeah.
And and some good games. And actually, if in a weird way, if EDF had been the game of the year, it would have definitely said that. Yeah, it's a year for solid games. It's not a year for super bangers.
No,
But-
there's no Resi 7 or Nier or Persona 5 in my case. That's a good year.
Yeah,
to follow up
definitely.
with. It's like,
And Horizon as well, which I've only just started playing,
Yes.
but is a fucking banger. No, my choice for number one was something I played very early on in the year, and yeah, it's Far Cry 5.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Now this is the thing, right? I'm not a big fan of. Yeah, I'm not like I don't dislike open world games by any means. I like a good fucking linear game with strong story missions and let's just get through it. And I don't want to fuck about too much. And then I don't like games that are in the middle of fucking nowhere, where like for me, gameplay isn't travel. Like there's people, if you're looking at like people commenting about Red Dead, they're like, oh, I just like to get on my horse and just go. It's like, fuck you boring cunt. Don't turn my fucking hobby into fucking I'm gonna get on a horse and fucking ride for fucking miles. Like, what the fuck, Like, sure, I'm sure it's nice the first time and seeing a couple of views, and I get that, I do. But like, traveling isn't gameplay, right? It never has been. In Oblivion, in Grand Theft Auto 5, in brilliant games, traveling isn't gameplay. It's just filler, right? It's just absolute filler. And so for me to like a game like Far Cry 5 is, or at least to elevate it to this status, is quite weird. Now, I liked Far Cry 4, and I liked 3, and I liked 1. Didn't like 2 very much. And I think what makes this one better than all of them is the fact that it's in America, so you just feel a bit more connected to it, to be honest. Then there's also, I mean, it's got the usual thing. Here's the bad guy. Here's their lieutenants, which in this case are, his family or whatever. And that's all well and good.
Is the bad guy crazy? Because that just seems to be the thing since the third one, where it's like, oh, it's this guy. Was his name Vaz or something? He's like, oh, hey buddy, I'm your friend, I'm your buddy. Oh, I'm mental. Oh, that's like, and then that just seemed to be the thing. How you do antagonists.
I mean, it is. This guy's kind of your creepy cult leader kind of guy, so he's mental in a different sort of way. He's maybe not like wacky mental. He's just like torture people mental and stuff like that. Do you know what though? It's just, firstly, obviously, being a Far Cry game, the action's really solid, the gunplay's really solid, the vehicles, there's plenty of them, they're all fun to use. You've got helicopters, you've got planes, you've got boats, you've got anything you need. So already, that's really good. Just on a basic level, it's like, it won't wow you, but it's solid and it's smooth and it's enjoyable. Then you've got the setting, which is really nice. There's some really good views, there's things to do. If you do want to go and do the hunting stuff and like that, there is a reason for it. Obviously you can create your pouches or whatever, I can't remember the exact details now, and all of that stuff. There's a bit of crafting, a bit of this and that, but then there's the story, which is just really, really good. It kept me engaged all the way through to the end. I thought the ending was brilliant. You obviously got 2 endings, but the main one, the one that's going to be canon, is really, I thought, really good. And it's got a little bit of woo in it, and a little bit of, you've been, given a drug, and now everything's a bit weird, which the Far Cry games always have to have like a weird bit in.
Yeah.
But apart from that, it's generic when I describe it that way, but it was just so much fun to play. Like, I never felt bored whilst I was playing it. And I wouldn't say that's true for Far Cry 3 or 4. Like, they were games that I persisted with, like they were brilliant, they were fun at the time, but I kind of persisted with to get the platinum. Whereas I think Far Cry 5 I was just enjoying playing the whole time, and it's just really, really solid. And again, another indicator that this hasn't been like, the kind of year that's going to blow minds. But
yeah, I mean, both of us have had a Ubisoft open world game. You're in number 1, my number 2, so it's like they're Ubisoft are good at making those games, but they're not necessarily going to be the best games in the world.
Yeah. So, but this is like, it is a really, really good game, and you can't go wrong with it. Like, sometimes you just need something that's really slick and probably focus grouped to hell, and using all the fucking psychological tricks they do to keep you playing and shit like that. It has all that, but you can experiment. There's a lot of weapons to play with, and you can try things out, and you can have fun with it. And it's just, I don't know, just really, really good. I've not played the DLC, and I know that that's going to be a bit of a grind, but I imagine when the DLC gets really cheap, I'll probably pick that up and play through it again and just enjoy it. But no, I think it's the best Far Cry. Pound for pound, maybe the first one might have been, just because it was different and new and great. But it's just really good. The setting does make a difference. I'm really looking forward to the next one, which I believe is in the same setting. It's in Montana
I think it's
again.
Set straight after, or not necessarily straight after, but after the ending of the 5th one.
So I'm pretty excited about that, and I'm not. That's the thing. It's like, I know it's not a sort of super cerebral smart choice, and it's not like, oh, this is the, the top-down indie equivalent of Dark Souls, and it's only got 3 colours in it, and it was all made by one guy, but it's the best game ever. It's like, yeah, I get it, it's fucking Ubisoft, but yeah, good is good, man. I mean, I've got a fucking EA game in my list as well, so what can you do?
Yeah. What I will
and it
say,
started so well with the 5th one.
I don't think this will be true for you, but I have in the past month played Spider-Man and God of War.
Yeah.
And neither of them hit my top 5. It was like they're both decent, but neither of them wowed me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, do you think that's... I don't know, do you think that might be slightly an effect of the hype?
The hype.
And
possibly with God of War. Not so much Spider-Man. Like, Spider-Man was a bit less hyped. Like, people enjoyed it, and obviously it's a big game and it's quite recent. But, there was quite a few people going like, oh, it's fine. Whereas if God of War, like, that has beaten, I think, Red Dead Redemption 2 to most of the Game of the Year awards and stuff like that, and
yeah,
it was massively hyped. But I played through it, and it is like I played Spider-Man after God of War, and you can definitely see a quality difference there. As far as God of War is better than Spider-Man,
yeah.
But still, it was like I played through it, I enjoyed it. I've still not maxed it. I need to go back and do all the open world stuff, but it was enjoyable, and the story's good, and the acting and all that camera work and stuff is really good, because like the camera never cuts away. Don't know if you know that. It's like it's always floating around, and then if you hit a cut scene, then it just sort of spins around and works that way. There's never...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so there's also no loading and stuff like that, which is cool. But at the same time, just playing through it and stuff was fine, not amazing. Spider-Man, basically a sort of open world Ubisoft type of game. It's like hit these towers, get these collectibles stuff, but you are swinging around. Swinging's cool, swinging's good, but and the story's good, and acting and stuff's all good, character's good, but like it was just nothing special. It was just a good game.
Yeah,
nothing more. So
fair enough.
Just so that people know that we've not just ignored them or whatever. I played those and they just didn't do it for me.
Yeah, and of course these lists are always subjective, and we don't get to play every single game, because unfortunately every once in a while I'll give you a fucking visual novel that means you can't play anything fun for 3 fucking weeks.
Yeah.
And actually this Christmas just gone, it was like, right, I tried to sort of ease up on like getting games in, because I wanted everyone to just be able to sit down and play a few games, and that's why I've been playing Horizon, and
I've
getting
been through
that.
God of War, Spider-Man, and I've been playing Dragon Quest 11 recently.
Oh, right.
And I've only played about 10 hours maybe, so it's not really enough to say if it would have displaced Ni no Kuni or something, but it seems like a decent JRPG as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I've been I did try out Prey, and
yes,
I fucking hated it, like really a lot. Like it did so many things that I hate. Like for example, you can just pick up stuff. Like everywhere you go, there's just stuff, and it's like, here's a bit of wire, here's some,
Does that
some
go in
fucking other
inventory,
shit.
or is it just like, right, you got unlimited space?
It's like, I think there's an inventory, and I think you use it for something, and then it's like there's just, I don't know, like it does that thing where it's like, oh, there's a machine, but you can't fix it because you don't know how to fix stuff, and there's a lock, but you can't open it because you don't know how to hack things, and it's like, well, that's all well and good. All right, and then it's like, hey, you can level up in something. It's like, well, what do I level up in? Because things are killing me. I don't, it's got that real System Shock kind of skill tree thing going on, where it's like, where it just gives you anxiety. You don't feel like you're making a good choice. You just anxious. And I unlocked one trophy and fucked it off, deleted it off my system.
That means that I will have to play it at some point. That's my type of thing.
You might like it.
But,
yeah, you might actually get into it, to be fair, but I didn't like it, and I also thought it was a pretty ugly game.
Yeah.
And not brilliant. If you had to pick 3 games right now that were in danger of making your top 5, what would they have been?
They probably would have been Spider-Man, God of War, and then Guacamelee 2 probably.
Oh, okay,
which
interesting.
is a fun 2D Metroidvania type thing. Good combat, good exploration, very very good UI as far as, hey, this part of the map's at 95% or whatever, so you know there's something there to get, and you know,
Yeah.
color coding everything to know what abilities you need and stuff like that. Very good, very solid Metroidvania.
Yeah, cool.
How
I mean, the
about
first one was
yourself?
pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, for me, it would have been Overcooked 2
Right.
because
Yeah.
it's just a brilliant fucking fun co-op game. The only thing is, I didn't review it. I did get a spare code for it, which I played. Used to review it with Grizz so he could play it online, and but it just seemed brilliant. I played a bit with my missus. It seemed like a lot of fun. Rogue Aces, which is a 2D sort of airplane sort of shoot 'em up thing,
Was
a bit
that a
like.
sequel or was that a different one I'm thinking of?
No, no, it's not a sequel. It
Okay.
looks a lot like an old Amiga game called Jet Strike, but just made a bit tartier and stuff. I really enjoyed it. It's quite difficult, lots of fun, like just loads of destruction, lots of lots of dog fighting. It was like Luftrausers if you ever played that,
Okay. Yeah.
but it was good and it didn't have a bullshit fucking giant blimp that just ends your game. And the last one was probably Tetris,
Okay.
but even then, it's last of that list of those little three, which is it's a really good Tetris game that looks really fucking nice, especially in VR. But it's just Tetris, and that's not enough. You know, it's good, it's really good, but it's not enough to be top five. Um, would always be pushed out by something else, I think. So, yeah, there you go. There's our 2018 Game of the Year awards. So,
Well
congratulations
done,
to
everyone.
everybody. Yeah, well done.
That's clapping, by
So,
the way, in case that's coming across weird.